All right, everyone. Welcome to the Nonprofit Future 2026, Harnessing AI, People, and Purpose. We thought about that title long and hard. I wondered if it should be AI, People, and Fundraising. Ah, but our goal here for this webinar is to build um, community and conversation around um, new ways of operating and a future that we see ahead, or at least I've seen ahead, um, as a for-profit operator and a board chair of a nonprofit. Who am I? uh, my name is Chris Nolte. I have had the benefit of running a private equity investment firm and um, broadly speaking, having the opportunity to do well and good. And what I mean by that is one of the businesses that we owned was a real estate services company. And we partnered with Goodwills all around the country, from Boston to Denver, as far south as Austin, to create one of the largest donation retail thought leadership executions in the United States. And we've built a lot of what I'll call organized garage sales, if you will, to help people get a hand up. But then I went on to participate in another number of nonprofits. So when I was building this company in service to for-profits, I also had a mind for thinking about how we could use it for nonprofits. Why is it now an important time to be talking about this? And this is an experience I have every day with the executive director, the president of the Wisconsin Conservatory of Music, is because nonprofits are stretched, and we're constantly trying to raise money to fill the gap, to build the capability to ultimately serve our mission the best we know. And the truth is that we all see greater need than we actually have infrastructure to meet. And so you start trying to think about new ways of doing this, and avoid the burnout that comes with doing it, to retain the people that we're building it with, and to also provide ourselves the opportunity to work on the things that are most important. Not just the mission, but the money to actually continue to grow that mission. So welcome to the future of nonprofit work. And here's the good news. If you're joining us today, what we hope to deliver to you is new ways of thinking. I know we all think we know what's possible, but I think the largest and most difficult problem that we all face is not knowing what's possible. We truly don't. We're always searching for new ways of thinking, and hopefully what we have to talk to you about today will give you some of those ideas. So now, just talking through the agenda very quickly, and then I will introduce you to your illustrious panel and speakers. First, we're going to just talk about the state of nonprofit capacity and sort of this need that we're talking about. We'll give you some thoughts about the burnout that's happening, give you some ideas about how people are using AI and remote talent to overcome some of these issues. We'll give you some insights from the leaders that we have before you. Talk to you about some solutions that you may have dismissed, but you shouldn't. And then have a sort of lively discussion, which I promise to make full of fireworks and tension and drama, as any good MC of any panelist and any panel should. And then, of course, by the way, and I should open up my my question and answer section here. You, my fine participants, can ask questions at any time to direct the conversation in any way you feel appropriate. And as professionals, we are excited meet those questions and address those questions the best we can. So make this presentation yours. So with that, let me introduce you to our panelists. Now, I'm also going to recognize one of the panelists that cannot be here today, Katie Torino. Katie Torino deeply regrets not being able to be here today. She called me yesterday, and she is focused on her business. She started by saying, "I've never done this before," and we would have loved to have her. But amongst your panelists and your speakers today, we have Adriana Mallozi. Adriana is someone who is a client of Kayana, but someone I've come to really appreciate and have become friends with. She runs Requipment. You're going to learn all about that nonprofit, and it's a fascinating story. Two, Amy Funk. Amy Funk actually was a service provider for the nonprofit that I work with. She's a rock star fundraiser, and she's thinking differently about how to do development. And I thought that would be of value to you. And not to replace Katie, but to actually give you, I think, a really good trade. We're talking about the future of work, and the future of work is going to involve you thinking differently about where work is done and who does it. And Mary Cruse is someone who I've depended upon to build Kayana from 8,000 miles away. And I think you'll be excited to meet her and learn her story, and to kind of see and think about how we operate our company from all around the globe. So with that, I'm going to move to the next slide here and introduce you to Adriana. Adriana doesn't require an introduction. Because she'll do that for you. But she's an amazing person, an entrepreneur in her own right, and she has taken on, I think, a mission that's near and dear to her heart at Requipment. Adriana, welcome to the webinar, and thank you, everyone, for joining us and welcoming Adriana to the webinar.
Thank you, Chris, for having me. So I'm Adriana Mazi. I'm the CEO of Requipment, and what we do is we take gently used equipment such as wheelchairs, rollators, etc., and we clean them up and refurbish them, and then give them away at no cost to any resident of Massachusetts. We are only 10 people, and we have some partner organizations, but we literally cover the entire state of Massachusetts. I just started this role a year and a half ago when the founder retired. And at that point, it was almost 10 years old. So it had been around for a while. And as Chris mentioned, this organization, the services that we provide, is very near and dear to my heart. As someone with a disability, I depend on a lot of the equipment that we provide the people of Massachusetts. So I myself have benefited from the program, but I've also given and donated my previously used equipment for others to use when I no longer needed it.
Yes. And so there's, I honestly think Adriana could do a master class. For example, taking over for the founder of a nonprofit. That would be one class she could teach. I also think learning a new business, I think, is also another one. Like, as a nonprofit, you are still a business. One of the things I enjoyed hearing is about the people that most depend on you. And what really struck me is that people that are teenagers growing quickly are big or heavy users of yours. Can you maybe explain that a little bit?
Yes, so when you're a child with a disability, and as children do, they outgrow things, right? Think of a pair of shoes. If you have children, think of how many times you have to buy new pairs of shoes or clothing. And they don't last more than a few months sometimes, barely a year sometimes, and if that. And so think of how much that costs. And equipment such as this could cost hundreds to thousands of dollars for one piece of equipment. When a child outgrows that equipment, insurance will only cover it every certain number of years. So if your child is growing and they're outgrowing their equipment faster than insurance will cover it, that child loses out on participating with their peers, going to school, milestones. And so it's really important that people or parents have access to this equipment for their children. And that's where we step in. They will reach out to us, check out our database on our website of available equipment, and just put in a request, and we deliver it within a couple weeks. No
Right.
questions asked.
Which is absolutely amazing. Now, when you stepped into the role, um, you probably saw a need, and and as every nonprofit operator does, there's constantly probably a sheet of want to haves or need to haves that we might not be able to afford. Um, how did you what kind of challenges did you see operationally that you're solving? And if you could also start by just telling the community how, what kind of budget you're operating under, how many people, and sort of the number of people you serve.
Yeah. So us, like ourselves, so we do have partner organizations. And a lot of the partner organizations provide in-kind services such as space and some personnel, but pretty much we, as our organization of 10, only have a budget of under $800,000 for the year. And we covered the entire state of Massachusetts pretty much, including with our partner organizations. When I started, everything was done manually. There were no automation. No platforms were being used. Everything was paper. So when someone requests a piece of equipment, they are either mailed a release form because obviously this is all used equipment. And so they have to sign a liability release form before they even can get any of this equipment. That was either being mailed, physically mailed to them,
Wow.
or scanned and emailed, and then again, mailed that. And so a lot of the things were being done manually. Same with the delivery system, all paper, physical paper. There was
And you
no.
you still took the job, Adriana.
So of course
Good
I
for
did.
you.
Well, I didn't know all this when I started until after I started. But it's a challenge. I love a challenge, and this was a challenge. I also came from a for-profit tech world. So again, this was all a challenge, and I love a challenge. And it, as you know, right when I started, I was like, oh my goodness, I know all this. We could incorporate all this tech and platforms and make it easier and quicker, and we could serve people better, and improve communication among us. We all work remotely. So none of us work physically together, except for a couple of the technicians. None of us physically work in the same place. And so, to establish that company culture and increase and improve communication, and coming from a tech world, I knew of a lot of different platforms that we could benefit from. So right off the bat, I was like, okay, how am I going to be able to, as just me, uh, be able to implement all of these things that I would like to do, plus run the organization and keep it moving.
Right.
And so that
Now,
was something that was a really big challenge that I was like, oh my God, what am I gonna
right,
do?
but you're not one to give up, and you're very innovative, and you have to be very innovative, and everyone's
Right.
resource constrained. And so I'm thinking to myself what you must have been thinking when
Yeah.
when we first started talking. Like, because I had seen a new world, a different way of thinking. You were trying to solve a problem. We're in a problem. I don't know if you had a sense of it, but the long and short of it is you're looking for help.
Yeah.
I mean, that
Yeah.
is, yeah,
And yeah, and I spoke to Katie, and who unfortunately couldn't be here today, but
right.
Katie was the one that she has she had been in this situation already, um
Yeah.
a few years earlier, and so I asked her for some wisdom. And she told me about Kayana and remote professionals, and that is, so I took the leap and went for that, and
Yeah.
it's been an amazing, oh my gosh, it's like night and day. And, it definitely, we were able to implement all of these things that I had wanted, could not have done myself. Um, the remote professional side is just
Yes.
fabulous and part of the team. And he was able to create onboarding guides for all the platforms that we started using. He really is part of the team. Our staff rely on him now. And so now we have digitized um, all of our intake. And again, we serve people with disabilities. So as soon as we did that, I myself can't use my hands. So paper is out of the question for me to begin with. But as soon as we automated the process or digitized all these forms, people were writing us and saying, oh my goodness, this is so much easier. Thank you for doing this. And just streamlining a lot of our communication and processes has helped so much with the quality and quantity of who we could serve and how much equipment we could get out to the residents of Massachusetts. So we've definitely seen the what how by having that extra help and also the resources, with such limited resources, having a remote professional took some of that off of my shoulders as well, so I could focus on other things here on the ground.
Right. Because we're all pulling a lot of different directions. Adriana, thank you for sharing that with us. We're going to come back around to you. Amy Funk. Um, as I said earlier, Amy has and her team has been helping the Wisconsin Conservatory in its development work, and that's where we met. Um, you probably see a lot
Oh
in the
yeah.
world of nonprofits. I mean, this has been your entire career. And so tell us what's going on in the world, Amy, and where the sort of the problems are, and both big and small, and how you're seeing the world and about
Yeah,
yourself
I
as
mean,
well.
we see, working with you on Wisconsin Conservatory of Music, it's a much larger nonprofit, right? With a full board and a full team and a strong director of development. And so I think, what we see a lot of in our work is organizations that look a lot more like Adriana's, right? That are very under-resourced, don't have staff. Just if you go to the next slide, I think I noted some of the things that we see um, as we're working with clients, right? Like this is where organizations, whether or not they have fundraising teams, as they're trying to get this work done, they have an enormous burden already of, if they have a CRM, which isn't even always the case, right? It's worse if they don't have a CRM, but tracking all these gifts, getting mired in all of this, reporting and paperwork, trying at the same time to put together events as they can, trying at the same time to write grants. We see all these organizations that either have such a high administrative load that come with fundraising that
Right.
they're not getting to fundraising, or they're not even getting to fundraising at all, right? They're not even saying that they don't have good time with donors is
Yeah.
saying that they have time to fundraise in the first place, right? And we just see a
Yeah.
lot of places
Yeah.
where all of this paperwork, all of this clerical work keeps them from doing strategic planning around fundraising, doing the kind of face-to-face interaction that we know as fundraisers is key to unlocking 5 or 6 figure gifts, right? They're just in this almost churn model of like getting enough time to put an ask in front of someone and then never talking to that person again, which doesn't allow them. It's like just this leaky bucket of fundraising
Yeah.
treadmill and admin
Yeah.
treadmill that never lets them get to the work that's actually important for them to do on a
And there's
day-to-day
a
basis in the world.
and there's a fair amount of anxiety too amongst the
Yeah.
executive directors, and because it's an uncertain future as to where the money and the development money is going to come from too, on top of it,
Yeah.
right?
It's like the cart before the horse, right? Like I need to raise more money so I can hire someone to help me raise more money, right? But you can never get out of that, right? Like you can't get out of
Right.
that
I mean,
cycle. Like
it's crazy.
it's hard. And I will say, like, just even this fall, I had a conversation with a client earlier this week, and they did their year-end appeal, and they're great. They're a well-resourced organization, and they're just finding they have to make individual asks. Like we're just finding that like the old model of direct mail or a Facebook appeal, or the return on investment for that work is dropping just because there's exterior noise. Donors are getting choosier and making more contributions. We're just seeing less of a scattershot approach and more of a like, and that's generational too. If you look at generational trends, more of an intentional fundraising, and so giving for donors. And so more than ever, like you've got to get up the donor pyramid, or you're never going to hit the goal that you need to be hitting so that you can grow your organization. It's a brutal cycle, and I see it all the time where people are knowing they need to raise more money and just not having any idea to how to clear enough bandwidth to do that work.
Right.
It's
I will
challenging.
say, for my part, we look at the P&Ls, obviously, of, as a board, looking at the sort of financial performance, and, the fundraising never stops. In fact, arguably, the philosophy is that you should never break even on your revenues and your mission because you're not trying hard enough. You have to raise more money. You have to
Right.
build, basically continuously build your development budget so you can spend more money and continue to build a mission. And it's almost like it's a bit of like a shark, not the shark has
Yep.
to continue to swim or it dies.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean, and the
so
other thing we see, which if you want to go to the next slide, we talk about a little bit here, is that um and it's the thing I think that this remote professional can help with is we also see in these entry level like management and coordinator level fundraising jobs is that you tend to hire people who don't have a lot of work experience, right? They're coming like right out of college, maybe they've had one other job, and those jobs don't they pay well, but not So they get in, and one of two things happens. They're great. They last 12 to 18 months, and then they leave you, and you start all over again with a new person. Or they don't know what they're doing and don't have guidance around what they're doing. And they wind up spending a lot of time like, I'm going to do an Instagram fundraising campaign or something that we know from a fundraising professional standpoint isn't really like the highest ROI, right, of this role. And so it is one of the challenges, even in organizations where they're able to find the right person or they hire someone, the churn in those entry level fundraising and honestly across the whole admin positions in nonprofits again tends to be quite high as well. So you're just, it's like you're constantly dealing with this challenge. It is
Yeah.
one of the things that I think when we first talked about this was one of the
Yeah.
things that I thought about was that in this role with the way that it's been structured, there is, you know, it is one of those things, if you're hiring this role, you really want to make sure that regardless of whether it's Kayana or a development coordinator or a development manager, however, or an administrative person, right, that you're keeping them very tightly focused on this lower level, like this structural fundamental piece of fundraising work on like CRM cleanup, portfolio management, email drafting. I mean, optimally, this, if you're really going to use this role to leverage up and grow your revenue, what you want this core job to be is to staff your executive director, to staff your director of development, to staff your board, right? So that you are kind of clearing out, you don't have, we always discourage organizations from hiring a director of development if they don't have any infrastructure, because you'd be paying someone $85,000, $90,000 a year to type gifts into your CRM. You never want that work to be done when you're
Right.
paying someone $90,000. And a lot of times, Chris, a lot of times it is, right? You have like one fundraising person and you're paying them
Yeah.
$90,000 to send thank you letters to your donors. You could be paying someone, you know, 30,000, you know, like, or part-time or this role or
Yeah.
however, start thinking about like, how are you clearing out things
Yeah.
so that you can push some of this high level strategy, donor engagement, lunches with donors, coffees with donors, thank you calls to donors, understanding like all of that, having someone do all your prospect research and your portfolio management, your CRM work, whether it's this
Yeah.
model or another, is going to give you the best
Yeah.
ROI on your fundraising.
Yeah. Afraid that this might sound like a commercial.
Right. No, I know.
I want people,
Yeah.
I want people to understand like that the best thing they could do is look at how they spend their own time and how they spend the time of their most valuable assets in their organization and ask themselves, are they, how much of that is being spent on things that could be done by others? And the reason why I think the world has told us that we should do it ourselves is because truthfully, support, high quality support has cost too much. And so we've had to do it ourselves. And so the breakthrough in thinking for me was my realization that, oh my gosh, um, I'm spending 30% of my time on something that someone can help me with, which I didn't know was possible. Start there. But more to the point is I was spending 50% of my energy because I was doing stuff that I didn't like doing. And because I didn't like doing, it was exhausting. I like avoided it. And I see Adriana laughing a little bit. And I actually love to hear that from you because I know Sai. I met Sai, the person that you work with. He was a math teacher. Okay. He's brilliant and he's committed and excellent. But I suspect, Adriana, that there's some things that you have delegated that wasn't getting done because you didn't like doing it. And I think every organization does that, especially if you're under-resourced, which is like really too bad because we waste our most valuable resources.
So true. I mean, I see all the time organizations where like your executive director or your director of development or your people who should be fundraising are doing work. And it doesn't, I mean, if this model is not the right model, that's fine, but you should still look at your job descriptions and push administrative work down and strategic work up always, right? Like
Right.
we find a lot in nonprofits, people jobs flip over. We know we have high turnover in our industry. And so roles shift based on who's holding them and not on what they should be. And often when you rewrite those roles, really thinking about like, what can I push down? Even that exercise alone, like what am I
Yeah.
doing that I don't have to do that I could trust someone else to do? So I
Right.
could spend how much more money would we raise if I was actually spending the majority of my time fundraising instead of doing all of this other one of
Yeah.
my first nonprofit boss used to call it paper dolls. She would say, don't spend your time on paper dolls. She hated paper dolls. And I've always taken that. Like, don't spend your time on paper dolls if you're a fundraiser. Fundraise.
Yeah.
That's what you should be doing.
Get out there and
Yeah.
sell.
I
Thank you
mean,
for
yeah.
that's great, Amy. Yeah, again, that's it sounds rote because we all think about it,
Yeah.
delegation, and you hear that. But when you're operating efficiently, it's sort of game changing. And then what's interesting that I've experienced myself, like I can't unsee it and I won't go back. Like I will not build differently and I will not continue to sort of behave like I had this strange feeling, and I'd worked with people that operated this way, is they had this sense of if I didn't do it, it's not going to be done right. And you know what? If you're hiring sort of lower quality talent and you're expecting to execute the way you are, you're right. That is sort of the definition. That was another definition of insanity. It's not going to work. Bad idea. But that's not the world that's out there. And listen, we use AI tools to support that. There's all sorts of things, but ultimately, by thinking differently, by operating differently, thinking differently and being right. I like that. The Apple commercial is like think different. I think it's incomplete. It should be think different, be right. Like thinking differently and being wrong is not like a good idea. Thinking differently, being right is that thing. And so now that when you start thinking about bringing and delegating to talent and executing and deliberately, your CRM is organized. You have a different approach to managing your portfolio of kind of assets or donor base, I suspect.
Right.
And you're spending time where you need it, right?
And it's much more, I mean, I always say that like those donor relationships are the poetry in our work, right? And I think, during COVID and even before that, there's been sort of a sea shift away from really genuinely knowing your donors. And I think it's one of the things that drives turnover because if you're a fundraiser or an executive director and you don't know your donors, you don't know their why. You don't know. I mean, it's so emotional to understand why your donors are giving to your organization. And if you don't have their why, you're not going to have the kind of relationship with them that's transformational from a
Yeah.
philanthropic standpoint. But also, like, I just think about the donors that I've met over the years, either as a fundraiser, a frontline fundraiser, or as a consultant, whose whys were incredible, right? Like, there's a donor at WCM, which is the organization that you and I have both worked with, and they do a scholarship program. And she's passionate about that because when she was a child, she wanted to take singing lessons and they were too poor for her to do that. She grew up in inner city Chicago. You would never know that if you met this donor, right? And not knowing her why, she's just another like rich lady at your gala, right? Like you don't have her narrative of being in a large Irish family and dreaming of being a singer and that dream deferred. And now she takes voice lessons as a retiree, right?
Yeah.
You would never know meeting her and not knowing her why. You don't get the poetry. I mean, for me, it's as
Yeah.
much about, and you don't fundraise the same way. You're not as effective. It's not just about fundraising in the bottom line. It's about to me it's about the artistry and the poetry of the work that we do, and it's what keeps
Yes.
you emotionally connected to the
Yeah.
job. I think it's really important for nonprofit professionals to be able to have the headspace and the time space to do this really
Yeah.
profound work in their job.
And what's really interesting is that, and this is not to just be about fundraising, I promise you folks, but it does feel like a game of scarcity where you're kind of hunting fast-moving white elephants, and they appear and then they disappear as quickly as you've seen them. And if you're not ready, you're kind of in trouble. And yet, in the United States alone, there's $461 billion donated, right? And so the question is, how do you go from the sense of scarcity to a feeling of abundance so you can feel the 461 billion and it actually feels real? And it's really, that's the trick, right? That's the trick. Thank you very much, Amy. Okay, so now here's sort of this is the dessert. And let me first start by saying, Katie Torino is incredible. And if were she here, she would tell us the extraordinary transformation of her organization at Hope and her support of people on the spectrum. And I've seen it in person. And I'm telling you right now, she's building it's like a wing to the building, but it really is like doubling or tripling the size of it. It's like extraordinary. In South Side of Boston, though she wouldn't consider herself South Side. But we have created an opportunity here, my friends. And that is this whole idea of living in abundance came to me when I first started working with remote talent at a very auspicious time, because it was about the same time AI was being rolled out. And I hired a remote professional who was a material scientist and an engineer to be my executive assistant. Because as they say, if you don't have an assistant, you are the assistant. But what opened up to my world is this realization that talent is uniformly distributed and opportunity is not. And historically, outsourcing was the world of call centers and support. And what I realize is that talent is everywhere. And today with us, we have someone that has now effectively co-built with me an organization that is 8,000 miles away from my home, with an extraordinary group of people that is constantly in search of talent. We are not a staffing company. We are a talent agent. And I've had the pleasure of building this with Mara Cruse, who is our director of operations here at Kayana. Together, we are a dynamic duo. But I wanted to get a sense for her and her background, because for those of you who have preconceived notions of what working with remote talent is, I want to break them right now. Mira Cruse, turn this over to you.
It's so much pressure, Chris.
And it's what we do here.
I realized something, that if we will attend something like this in the future, I don't want to be the last. My hands are really sweaty.
Oh, it's good fun.
All right. So, everyone, so as you all know, I've been working with Chris remotely for 2 years, over 2 years now. My role is very, very simple here at Kayana. Very simple. I build systems that doesn't break. And what do you mean by that? We train people. We train people with the right mindset, especially for leaders that has been working in the BPO, or leaders in other organizations who wanted to transition to remote industry or remote work. We like to hire them. We love to hire them because these are the type of remote professional with a great mindset. They've been trained. They know what's discipline. They know how to perform. They know what's the meaning of performance. So
that's intense.
Yeah.
That's intense, Mary. I'm not sure many nonprofits sort of think with sort of the sort of operational rigor that a good BPO, business BPO, for the people who don't know, business process outsourcing, these are sort of the factories of service that run Microsoft and JP Morgan and large scale organizations that are running 24/7.
Yes.
I think at one point you had like 500 people. You were managing 500 people. Is that right?
More than 500 people.
Okay, sorry. Pardon me. Go on.
Yeah. And I specializes in high precision. high accountability. It's very, very important. The operational framework here at Kayana will really is gearing towards accountability and ownership. I am also an integrator in entrepreneurial operating system, if you're familiar with that. So that's the EOS, and happen to be also green belt in Six Sigma. So everything that I learned previously with my previous organization, that's what we built. We put it together and built Kayana for that. We wanted to create a space for remote worker who are really talented. That's why Chris is saying we're not hiring just the people. We are hiring talent. We are a talent agency, right? So um, I just wanted to mention this as well. We also are very particular when it comes to intelligence and complex organization. What I meant by that is the remote professional that we are hiring, they're only the top 1% of the people who applied here at Kayana. They're the people who understands the system. They are the people who understands your business. We hire them when we say the right mindset. We hire them because these are the people who um, they will think for you. They will think with you. They will build their business with you. They will care for you. And that's exactly what Adriana described about Sai, the right mindset.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that is true. And I think that you know, when I started building this company, I asked myself who I was building it for. And I have a very private equity, for-profit sort of business mentality. I was trained to do this. And I think what we've built is very institutional in nature. And that is why we're very much in service to private equity-backed portfolio companies. But we don't like to just do well. We like to do good. And when I first met Mary, she started telling me about all the good she does in her community. And I talked about sort of how I want to basically do things of value and help people. And I really feel like we're in a privileged position to help everyone. It's a kind of a white knight scenario where we bring talented people together with people who need it and to make the world a better place. We do things for in support of them, in support of the nonprofits themselves. It's kind of like the other side of our business that makes us sleep well at night, I think. But it also is unique because many of the talented people that we bring into these organizations have themselves been supported in some way by the community. And I'm reminded of a question that one of our remote professionals asked me, and I'll never forget it. They said, Chris, when you were a kid and you had crayons, did you get the 8 crayon set or the 16 crayon set? And I didn't know what they were getting at. I didn't understand. And I paused a second because I wasn't sure what they were getting at. And the truth is, I had a 64 crayon set with a sharpener. I said, but before I answered, I asked them, why? What does 16 and 8 mean to you? And they said, well, the rich kids had the 16 crayons. And one of the unique things of talented people from third world countries working in nonprofits is they get it. They get the importance of the mission and the value that the nonprofits provide. And they're right there with you because they lived it. You know, and I think that is very unique. I think oftentimes as nonprofits, we want people that understand the value. It's one of the great things about the conservatories. Many of the people that work there themselves were helped by the conservatory, were supported by the conservatory. But I think, you know, in Sai's instance, Adriana, I think he gets it, right? I think he actually gets it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
He totally does.
Yeah. And so, I think that's sort of it's a unique position and unique role. Um, Thank you, Mary, for sort of telling us more about your role and about how we think. Um, I think we like to surprise people. Um, so we've got another 14 minutes here, and we've kind of covered some of these things, but I think AI is definitely very much a topic of conversation, and I know we're all using it. Um, and I guess I'm curious of the people on the panel here, um, how they think about AI, not today, but what they think it might have in store for their nonprofit 3 and 5 years from now. Sort of give us a viewpoint. Are you skeptical? Are you excited? Um, where's your head? And let's start with you, Adriana. What are you thinking?
Um, as with any piece of technology, it,
Yes.
as with any technology, right? It can go either way, good or bad. Uh, but it's all about the person using that technology. And um, right now, AI, especially for people with disabilities, AI has transformed a lot of the tasks and made it easier. And it's not the fact that AI is doing it for you, but it helps you and guides you and puts your ideas together in a more comprehensive and way. And so I think as it evolves, um, it'll allow small organizations such as ours to be able to do more with the little resources that we have. So we could accomplish a lot more with fewer resources.
Right.
And that is how, small nonprofits are going to be able to survive is
Yeah.
by leveraging this technology um to do some of that heavy lifting that, and take that burden off of us. But I
Yeah.
do see also in the combination of as Amy mentioned, where it's, why are you paying someone an exuberant amount of money to do some of these simple tasks or mundane tasks? And so leveraging technology with an actual human being, right? And not,
Yes.
again, conserving resources. It's all about conserving resources. So
Mm.
I that's what excites me about AI and technology is that our limited resources will go a lot further in the
Yes.
future.
That is fantastic. I believe that the world is going to speed up, and in a non-market environment that we find ourselves in nonprofits, that should lead to a greater and expanded mission. Like the mission will grow. I don't believe anyone's competing against you except for the people that are actually selling products in your market, right? So you'll just be able to do more and do it faster, and that'll be remarkable.
Exactly.
And
And
so,
we could serve more people. I mean, the ability to serve, it's not that we don't have the amount of equipment or the amount of people to serve, is getting all of that to the people. And so with technology, we'd be able to serve a greater number of people with the limited resources that we have.
Amy, do you have any like messages from the sort of the fronts from some of your
Oh, I mean,
clients of how they're using AI?
I agree completely with what Adriana is saying. I think it's a tool. I mean, again, you got to get the organizations that are successful are the ones that are doing relationship based fundraising. Like it's never been truer. I've been fundraising for what, almost 25 years, never been truer, right? Like in people have so much digital noise. If you rely on things like mail and email, no matter how beautiful your Facebook campaign is, your ROI is not, your donor retention, your ROI are not going to work. So automate what you can, use AI as a tool to get further up the fundraising chain, that relationship based, person to person, seeing your donors for who they truly are, and forming genuine relationships. AI is a tool for that. And then it helps you automate and offsource um, and do work that might take you hours, and you can do it, you know, in a matter of minutes using those.
But it doesn't replace the in-person time, the face time that's needed to sort of grow the to grow the mission, to grow the donor base, to build relationships with the community, and so on.
Yep, it doesn't replace fundraisers. It should allow you to do more actual fundraising.
Yes, I agree. I think we've addressed most of this here. I think that what I can tell you from my own experience and just working with remote professionals is that if Mary is any indication, there are exceptional people that don't live 30 miles from your house. They might live, and the imbalance between talent and opportunity in third world countries is extraordinary. And nonprofits whose mission isn't to hire people locally. I mean, some people have that. Goodwill, for example, has that mission. Can see this as an opportunity to grow their own mission, to become more efficient, and to do more with less, to stop sort of the endless retention issues and being a stepping stone to someone else's career. What limits your ability to execute with AI or remote work is your own preconceived notions of what's possible. And so many times, just even talking about AI, people will come to that party going, "Oh, it hallucinates," and yet it gets, and that's true, and it does occasionally hallucinate, but like I hallucinate sometimes. I mean, I'm not perfect. I make mistakes. We all make mistakes. But if you threw me out because of one mistake that I made, or sort of a predisposition I had to thinking big, and then you'd miss the opportunity. You'd miss the opportunity. And so what we're left with is sort of this idea of combining the perfect mixture of AI, remote talent, and processes, as Mary sort of wants to dig into, to really create a sustainable nonprofit. And sustainability in your donors and sustainability in your mission is the thing. And while there's going to be a lot of change, I think it can be very positive. But you got to be a student of the game. And one of the things we want to do, this is kind of our kickoff to being sort of to building this conversation in and around this topic. But I think the people we bring onto this sort of webinar series are going to be people that are doing things different and having some success and bringing back some of the lessons learned as well. Because why fail when someone has already failed for you? That's silly. We have 5 minutes left here. I want to open the kind of Q&A section to the group here. There's a large group of people now watching. Thank you for all being here. But I don't see any questions, and I feel like I have failed. I failed because no one's asking questions, and what we desperately want is a conversation. So I'm going to kick this off, and I'm going to try to do some cherry picking here. Let's see. I'm going to skip question 2. I'm going to skip Q1, question 1. Oh, interesting. Okay. So why don't I'm going to ask this of you, Adriana. We've got a question coming in. What new skills does a nonprofit team need to stay relevant? And that's interesting for you because you probably have a lot of things you need. But like, if there was one thing that you need, what if I can wave a magic wand and make something, cure something for you, what would it be?
That is so difficult because we are such a unique organization. And how we operate is very, very unique, as you know. New skills. I don't think it's new skills. I think it's the ability for us to actually hire people. So it's not more so for us new skills. It's more having
Bandwidth.
not being so spread thin. Like we're spread so thinly because we're such a small organization. We all wear multiple hats and have to do several jobs at once. And so I think we all kind of have to know how to do everything pretty much. And it's more of if we could have a couple more people working for us,
Yeah.
and delegate more of those tasks to
Yeah.
more people. That it's really not about skill in our case. It's more about having more people to do the jobs that we need
Right.
done.
Well, and the other thing too is I think nonprofits and this is why they're nonprofit leaders and working at nonprofits is cutting the mission is non-negotiable.
Exactly.
Right. I mean, we could just cut your mission down and you wouldn't need those people.
But
But
then we
you kind
wouldn't
of grow the
exist.
mission and build behind it, right? You have to live
Right.
up to what you've just built.
Right. We would not, if we cut the mission, we wouldn't exist. There would be no reason for us to exist at all.
Right.
Right.
Exactly.
You exist for the mission. That's what it is. So I mean, yeah.
All right. Another hard question. Amy, what keeps nonprofits from seeing what's possible? Why are they occasionally blind?
Oh, because they're working 1 billion hours a week. They're drowning, right? They're completely underwater. They're like barely getting by. I mean, nobody works harder than a nonprofit executive director.
Right.
That job, I do not envy them that role. And they're so mired in the work that it takes to keep the resting trajectory of a non-for-profit, if you're thinking of flying a plane, is straight into the ground, right? So you are constantly trying to keep that plane level and above. And the mental energy, the emotional energy of having these incredibly important missions and being in a lot of cases one of a handful of people responsible for keeping that organization steady, that is like 4 jobs in one. That's why they can't see what's possible. They're so caught up in just getting through their work, holding things together, that they don't have space, they don't have bandwidth to do
that. Yeah. The world of go ahead.
Can I add to that? But it's also Amy, you mentioned it earlier, or Chris, or it's that mindset, right? It's that mindset because I often see organizations where the people involved have been in it so much, right? Have been in the trenches for so long, and it's kind of what you said, Amy, but that you don't see past what you've been doing the whole time, so that you can't think outside of the historical things that you've done the entire time, right? And we can never possibly do this. We can never possibly do that because we don't have the resources. We've never done it before.
Right.
So I think it's also a mindset of not even exploring right? Not even exploring new possibilities.
Yes.
It's the cart and the horse, right? Like I
Yep.
need to raise more money to
Yes.
hire someone
Yeah.
to raise me more money. It's that endless cycle of those two.
Yeah.
Well, folks, we have come to the end of an hour, and I think that is a really good ending to our first webinar of talking about the business of nonprofits. We want you to come with more questions next time. I can always ask them for you, but you should come with more questions next time. And I want you to know that you should feel free to reach out to any one of us to either share your story or ask for help. We're building a bit of a community here in this. We encourage you to be a participant in it. If nothing else, don't make the mistakes we've made. You don't have to. And we're happy to show you where sort of those bodies are buried so you can avoid them yourself. You do what is very hard in this world. And you run very complicated, difficult organizations because you believe in the mission. And as we say here, we like to help the people that help the people. Let us help you in some way, shape, or form, however that might be. Thank you, Adriana. Thank you, Amy. Thank you, Mary. Have a wonderful rest of your week, everyone, and hopefully we'll see you soon.
Thank
Take
you
care.
so much, everyone.
All right. Bye now.